Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, all. This is Jeffrey DeRose, Director of the CSI Tech Incubator. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have Kimberly Cortes, Director of Digital Acquisition at Hearst Magazines, and she'll be joining us today to talk about building a career in digital marketing. Kim was a former student at CSI, just like most of you all here, and she built up a fabulous career. So Kim, maybe I'll just give you the floor to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining the call, hearing more about me and my career journey. So I am a Staten Island native. I was born in Brooklyn, but moved to Staten Island pretty young. I went to CSI. So I graduated in 2011 with a degree in communications, digital media. So it's been really exciting to see how, CSI has just evolved that space. But yeah, I'm super excited to share with you my journey in corporate and marketing and communications.
Yes, thank you so much, Kim. So just a little housekeeping before we get into it. This is just going to be a fireside chat with Kim. There isn't a presentation. Feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat, and just towards the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. So with that being said, Kim, can you just tell us a bit about, just your journey from where you started being a communications major to how you get to where you were today?
Yeah. So it's actually interesting. So when I was in CSI, I had started with a psychology degree, and I want to say around the second year or my third year, I found out that communications was actually an opportunity, like a degree that either was being newly developed or something that just came out of nowhere. So I had switched gears. I had to focus primarily in psychology, and then I wanted to learn more about communications, digital media. And what that role was essentially back then was focusing on all sorts of digital media. So like web designing, graphic designing, typography. It wasn't really focused on marketing. It was very vague, and there was so many areas of it, but it was more on the creative side. So it was really great. And when I graduated, I said I want to do web designing, and so I joined a magazine called In New York Magazine, and I interned there for my last. I had interned there for my last year, so I wanted to continue there, and it was good. I mean, it opened my eyes to like web coding and all that stuff. But I then realized really quickly that I wanted to do more than just graphic design and coding. So then I started looking for opportunities to do internships in marketing roles. And I didn't know exactly where in marketing I wanted to be, because there are so many facets of marketing. It's very open. So I started with email marketing, and then I had kind of, gone through my flow after that to kind of explore other teams within the marketing team to see what they were doing. So I did email marketing, and then I did some copywriting stuff. And then I kind of moved up to do more coordinator roles until, I kind of I don't know if you want all the specific journeys, or if you want to skip to the last.
Sure, you can skip over to the last if you want, because you maybe did have a lot of roles.
Yeah. So after I've gone through that, I ended up at Hearst Magazines in a marketing role. And then I switched my focus from just general marketing partnerships to paid acquisitional marketing. So that's just a fancy way of saying trying to work on paid media. So either doing paid ads on Instagram, Facebook, or on Google and Bing, and also on Amazon, which Amazon has really expanded into their advertising world. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And that shift kind of helped me, and it really broadened my scope of marketing, and it really helped me focus on what I really enjoy. And I've been here for been at Hearst for 5 years, but I made the switch 2 years in. So for 3 years, I've been doing paid marketing, and it's been the best for me. I've enjoyed it truly.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And it sounds like you've been very successful in your role. So congratulations to you. And so the first question is, what should a CSI student be thinking about today if they want to build a successful career in marketing?
That's a great question. So I think, it's really hard to decide where in marketing you want to when you're still in school, because there isn't, like, a lot of corporate worlds don't give you an opportunity to jump into a role unless you have the experience. And one of the things I've been learning in my role now, where I've been getting interns from people from different schools and trying to like do a lot of those interviews, is like, I think one of the things that you have to know is at least like what direction you want to go in marketing. I think that's really fundamental. And you won't know that unless you have like internships, or if you do some sort of like freelancing work with a company, and just, there's paid internships, there's tons of paid internships, but I think you need that experience to fully understand where in marketing you want to go. Because if you just kind of come out and you don't know what to do, you're going to do a bunch of jobs that you probably don't enjoy, and you're probably going to be wasting your resources. So it's important to like get all that information. It's all available to you right now, where back then it wasn't as easily available. So there's different like YouTubers, there's different platforms where you can like search up the different marketing roles. But I think the first thing, it's fundamental, is to understand exactly what marketing role you want in like what space, and then try and get like internships or opportunities to grow and learn more about that.
Yes, no, thank you. That's a great answer you gave. And just diving a little deeper, are there any platforms you recommend? Like I know on the technology side, we're always recommending like Udemy and Coursera. Would you also recommend like, students like hopping on those kind of websites to just like supplement their education to get just some hands-on skill sets, or excuse me, develop their skill sets for marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm familiar with Coursera, and I've seen that. There's also, depending on what type of marketing you want to do. So if you wanted to do paid marketing, Facebook ad Blueprint offers a bunch of like free resources to like understand like marketing in general, but there's specifically paid marketing. There's also like how to market on social media, which is a little different, but definitely look for platforms or like any websites that can offer courses like that, because that'll be super helpful to help you understand what type of role you'll be in, to the responsibilities that you'll be doing in that role, and whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. And being that you're now kind of at the director level, what would you say employers are looking for with like, first year or second year marketing students, or even at the internship level?
I think someone who's you have to, and I always say this because I'm very passionate about marketing, is like you have to really be driven, and you have to be passionate about what you do. I mean, anything you do, if you're passionate, you're going to be very driven because you're going to be very excited about it. You're going to be eager to learn. So if what I'm looking for specifically when I hire interns or any associate managers or managers under me, I look for people who are really interested in marketing, who are really interested in open to learning, because marketing is developing, it's evolving, and every time there are new forks in the roads that are being developed or that are happening, and you have to know how to shift and pivot. So you have to always stay up to date with the changes that are happening. Influencer marketing blew out of nowhere, and a lot of people expected it, and a lot of people, it was taken by surprise. So things like that are new and changing, like you have to be on top of it, because it's important, so that you're prepared when you have to pivot or change. So I think when I like to go back to your question, like not only what I'm looking for, but we're looking for somebody that is eager to learn, that is passionate, that is driven, and anybody who takes initiative, because a lot of marketing has to do with generating like ideas and stuff. So you have to sit there and be like, what could be a good idea? Like, what should we do? Versus someone who's just sitting there and taking orders and it's like not giving ideas. It's not going to be very successful, or at least you're not going to be very excited about your role.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think what you're talking about is kind of that applies to like all fields, like just being motivated, being passionate, and really like, I almost want to say like, being a producer, as a marketing person myself, like the people who really rise to the top are the people who can produce,
Yeah.
producing meaning like, really getting those brand impressions, helping drive those customer sales, helping drive those email campaigns. just, I want to really get like into the weeds of like, the work that's being done. So maybe just talk a few minutes about maybe what do you think are some of like the big areas in marketing? And when I say that, then like, you mentioned influencer marketing, you mentioned paid advertising, you mentioned copywriting. Maybe just talk about like some of the different fields of marketing and what somebody should be expected to do in those roles.
Yeah. So I'm probably not the most equipped to answer all of the marketing places, because I mean I've done a couple, but not all of them. But I do say that like as I'm in this role, I've noticed that influencer marketing is really taking like the stage right now. It's becoming like one of the main things that brands have been focusing on, and where the shift is happening. And also like the new media platforms that are being developed for like just in general, like social media, like TikTok, that blew up. That's becoming really big, not just in the paid advertising space, but like being able to use like really cool video content and promote your brand or whatever you have there. That's just been like huge place to like elevate. And you don't necessarily need influencers in that space, because you can just be, you can be someone who works in HR and created an account and you're promoting just working at that place. So it's that, I would say, is a new place that's really growing and developing. In email marketing, some of the things that you find yourself doing is copywriting. Sometimes, like a lot of email marketers emails has a lot of turnover. And what I mean is that like it's exhausting from what I've experienced, but it's sometimes it could be really fun because you're working with your own audiences. You're working with people that, have a familiarity to the brand. And so they're loyal, they are on the email list, they're expecting. So it could be fun. But there's a lot of like copywriting and also a lot of like developing new audiences, and working on how to like grow your email list. There's a lot of strategy in all the things that you do. I'm sure there's things that I'm missing. I mean, like, creative designers or UX people, they can also fall under the marketing team because they think about like the whole like consumer experience and like, how when someone lands on this page, like they have to do this action and this button will make them go there, and this button will tell them like don't click here or something like that, right? So I think there's so many different areas of marketing. We probably wouldn't have the time to talk through them, but for me, those are my like top. I think paid marketing and influencer marketing and organic marketing, just kind of like doing your own marketing, whether it be on social media or whether it's like, you're doing it on a different platform organically without having to pay for it. I think that's growing, and that's pretty big.
Yeah, no, I know marketing is a very broad field and there's so many things going on, but I think you're giving some great answers and some great insight. Can we maybe talk about the role? I feel like a new area of marketing that's really hot and picking up is just the role of analytics. Can you maybe just speak to that, like the importance of analytics and maybe just acquiring those analytic skill sets, like just data analyst stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great point. So what I've realized in my recent interviews for internships, a lot of the people that have been specializing in marketing, they have either they've taken courses in analytics or they have an interest in analytics. And I think that's really important. So not only are we out here doing the forward-facing marketing where it's like we're pushing something like a creative that a consumer sees, we have to look at the data, because that's really what tells the story. We have to know, like, when I did this action, like what did it produce, and like what is it telling me about whether I should make changes or I should keep things the way they are. It's very important to be an analytical person in roles that require you, like in marketing roles. I think I would say in every role, you should have some sort of analytical interest or background, because even on the creative side, like, UX designers use data on like, when someone hovers over something for too long and being able to do those kind of like heat maps on a website and being able to say like, okay, I didn't do this the right way. We need to change it. People are spending too much time here versus where we want them to spend time. So having focus on, on analytics and trying to expand your expertise there, like Excel sheets, understanding data, understanding metrics, like what is a click through, what is clicks, what is impressions, all that is very essential because that's where you're going to be using when you set up any kind of marketing campaign. And that's also what you're going to be using when you're reporting and you're telling, your business or your employer, like, this is how this performs. Like, it basically tells a story of whether you're doing something right or wrong. And data drives creativity because, and so does the other, and creativity drives data. So in ways, it's like looking at the data helps you create new ideas and strategize for new things. And then when you strategize for new things, it'll bring data. You'll say, okay, well, this performed this way and this performed that way. It's kind of like a cool cycle. So it's very essential in marketing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And I know you also are doing paid advertising, right? So can you maybe just talk about the importance of return on investment and just like, also managing money when it comes to marketing, at least for the people who might end up in those roles?
Yeah. So I am very fortunate to be managing, budgets that are 7 million plus on our side. And I mean, that's pretty hefty when you think about it. If somebody trusts somebody like me with $7 million.
I don't know why.
Right, crazy. So it's very important that I'm not wasting the company's money. And so like when we look at, okay, we're gonna trust Kim basically with $7 million plus to, do our paid advertising on all of our different efforts that we have or offers that we're promoting. They want to make sure that that money is bringing in more money, right? And that I'm not depleting our budgets or losing the money. So it's important to look at the ROI because that helps, also give a temperature check on like how we're doing on the sales side. So if they see, okay, well, there's a profit coming out of this, we're making more money, then we should invest more money on paid advertising. There's a larger return on investment. So that means that this is a great place for us to continue to give Kim more budget and say, okay, Kim, we're going to give you 2 million more because you're showing results. And so now we think that if we invest more, we'll get more. And what the opposite of that is, like, they can see a loss and they could either be like, there's something not right here, there's we're losing money. It's either the business, it's me, or just the channels that we're working on that aren't working. And then it's up to you or me or anyone who's in that role to make the decision, like, we should shift our strategy so that we can focus our efforts on something that is going to bring return on investment, something that is going to bring a profit and not going to deplete our money.
Yes, and not to be morbid, but if you're losing money, if you end up being unprofitable, I think for too long and too consistently, you also could lose your job, right?
Yes. They'll be questioning my performance and they will be, I'm sure, especially when you're new, I think that you won't be managing budgets that way. But once you've been there and you're seasoned, I think they'll start to question, like, okay, obviously what you're doing is not correct and you've been doing it for a long time and we've spent 7 million of our budget, and what do you have to say about yourself? There'll definitely be questions about it. And so that's why it's important to do like checks along the way. In the marketing world or in the corporate world, we have like quarterly checks. So every 3 months or every quarter, we kind of look through how performance has been. And, we look at it in the full scope. It's not just on me because there's different sorts of marketing that's going on. I just manage the paid marketing, but there's different places. And so we look at the full scope to see, all right, what's happening here, what's happening there. So hopefully before they, if anything like that happens, I definitely feel like it would be like a conversation that will be caught along the way before it's too late.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And but I just want to bring up that point just to show that performance is super important in this role of marketing, whatever it is, whether you're doing like, copy or ads or you're managing socials. I mean, in your case, you're really dealing with money. So that's very cut and dry. Hey, we invested this amount of money. This was lost. We can't keep losing. We got to find someone else who's going to win. And I just also want the students to really just also understand that marketing is a very competitive environment, and it's really about performance. And I'm curious, and this is actually a real question that I have. Since it is so performance based at your level, like working with such a major company, do they bring in like performance coaches and stuff like that, or not really?
Nope, they don't.
That you should recommend them, that they should, because it's about performance, right? And a lot of these things is like just managing yourself, managing your mental. I'm wondering, do you maybe want to talk about that for a few minutes, right? Since like you're in such a high performance role, um how do you manage yourself? How do you manage your mental? How do you manage your day to day? Because I'm sure like there's days where it's really challenging, things aren't working out right, and then there's days where things are going great. Can you maybe just speak to like the mental management or mental health aspects of the roles?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely it could be very taxing on you. And there are times where, there's things that you're really under pressure, like around holiday time, as anybody knows, like sales are going on like crazy. There's a lot of competition going on with like different advertisers. So it gets really crazy. And then that's usually when people go on vacation. So it's hard to like get answers or get things moving. And sometimes you're kind of like, depending on things that are out of your hands. So early on in my career, when I was very young, and I had started my marketing career, I was in a role that at a different company that recommended this book called Emotional Intelligence. And it was a really great book, honestly. And it helped me kind of understand like situations and how to like handle stress and how to like, handle emotions at work and interactions with people, but also like with yourself. So I always have it on hand. Like it's a book that I read. But one of the things that I do personally myself is I like to, so I perform really well under pressure. That's just like a thing that I do. Not a lot of people do, but like if I've given a lot of work and I have a timeline, I do better than if I don't have work, because then I feel very like anxious about like, oh, my day is kind of empty. I don't have any meetings. I don't have anything to do. So I try to use the times that are like stressful, which is when I don't have anything to do. Well, not anything, I shouldn't say that, because like my employers are like, what do you mean you don't have anything to do? But I
Yes, you
I
don't
have
get that out there.
right. Not when I don't have, when I have like gaps in my day where I'm like, okay, I pretty much did the strategy. I don't have any meetings right now. I use that time to do things that I like, that I enjoy, which is like reading and getting updating on articles on marketing and like what's going on. So like I use that time usefully to like be productive and continue to be productive. And also like, it's helpful for me to help me expand, but it's also helpful for the company because the more I learn, and my employers encourage that. They have a lot of trainings and like conferences that they like, free things that they give us to do. So, I like book an hour and just try to focus on things. But aside from that, when I clock out, as they say, when at the end of the day to kind of debrief, I do things that are like very focused on myself, and like I try to like not keep the work with me. So like once 5:30 hits, or if I'm working on a project until 6 or 7, whatever it is, and I'm logged out of the computer, I try not to go back. Like I am very, very very tough on myself about that. But like, especially now where we're working remotely, and like it's so easy for me to go into my office and just like send up an email or reply on my phone. I try to keep that separate so that I give myself time to, myself, and not focus so much on like the stress of work. And if something needs to be handled, of course, like I'll go back and I'll finish it. But if there is anything that's not like urgent, I try to use that time useful, whatever I do, like whether it's like reading a book or watching a TV show or just like sitting in silence, or whether it's me on TikTok, like anything that really will help me kind of de-stress from the work day.
Yes, yes. I want to get deeper into your TikTok influencer life, but we're gonna leave that alone for today. Maybe we'll do another session on how to become an Instagram influencer. But my last question, and I'm going to give some time to the students to ask some questions. So students, get ready with your questions. Lightning round. Real quick, what's maybe top 5 books you would recommend to somebody who wants to build a career in marketing? Or top 3 books?
Wow, I would not be able to help you with that one because I am so bad with book titles. You read way too many books for me to remember the titles of books. I can only tell you about emotional intelligence because it's sitting right outside for me, but I can give you a list afterwards if you're interested. I'm just not really good with book titles. And honestly, I don't read a lot of marketing books. I do a lot of articles. I think that books are great, but like I said earlier, marketing is evolving really quickly. And by the time a book gets published, it's already changed. And so it's very difficult. So when I look at books, I look more about like maybe books that help you. Like I read this book a long time ago about copywriting and marketing and like how to write copy that sells. And I read that book and it was great. But when I look at it up at Amazon, like recently, maybe it's like 5-6 years ago that I had bought it, it's already outdated. Like people are already saying like, this book isn't relevant now. Like, copy has changed. So it's really difficult for me to recommend a book that.
So let's switch the question. Maybe what are maybe your top websites to go to learn about marketing?
Yeah, so I love Ad Age. I think Ad Age is a really great. It tells you like informative stuff about what's going on in the advertising world. IAB. So IAB is Interactive Advertising Bureau. It has like courses. It also has articles like things that are updated. Things that are like happening in the world. Facebook also, like Facebook Blueprint. So they have courses and stuff to help you develop and understand. And a lot of my work has to do with Facebook. So I always look to see if there's like things that are going on Facebook that have changed and evolved. And then I also read, so the New York Times and the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal, they all have like a business section. So anything that's happening, like, recently there was iOS changes on Apple, and where Apple users can decide not to have third party or any apps track their data for advertising purposes. And that was like a really big thing in the Facebook world because it was impacting Facebook mostly and the investment that people were going to make. And that was all over Wall Street Journal, New York Times. They had an article just talking about like what was happening there. And then another one, which is not really marketing, but it's technology, and it kind of falls in line sometimes, is Wired. I think Wired is a magazine as well, but they're the online site. Like it's helpful for me to see what's also happening on the technology side, because I always think like if something's new coming out, like TikTok or something like that, it's helpful to see like, are they doing ads? Are they doing like, any sort of marketing stuff? But yeah, that'd be my list of 5.
Yeah, that's great. And the last question I have is, I know you're experienced, you're obviously brilliant, and you're doing great work. What are you doing right now or what are you looking at or reading right now or studying right now to just, advance your skills? Or are there any areas you're trying to grow your skill sets just so like the students can see that, you could be, 10 years in the game, but you still got to be, improving yourself?
Yeah. So recently Adobe, the company that makes like all the creative stuff, and I'm sure you're familiar with like PDFs and stuff, they had a conference, and my company had like free, it was a remote conference, so my company had like access to get like tickets to the conference. And so I wasn't able to join the conference, but my boss sent me the whole like sessions that they have. So I'm kind of been filling myself up to see like what Adobe just launched and like what new tools they have that could be essential for our world, so that I could present them to my team and I can say like, oh, Adobe just launched this new program. Like, it streamlines the process of like setting campaigns up, or it's super helpful to find out, the changes that like iOS is doing, how Adobe can help us with those changes and the impact. So I look at things like that. So right now, that's what I'm looking at, the Adobe sessions, and there are a bunch of them. But I'm also new into the e-commerce world. We just launched a store a year ago, which I didn't have any experience in store. We weren't using e-commerce. So I have been trying to get my feet in the water to expand on e-commerce. And like, I have been, most of the time I'm going to just find myself like Googling like free courses on e-commerce and whatever pops up. I think it's always important to do that. And Google's just the easiest way to go to see like who's out there that has the most updated article.
Okay, no, great, great. Well, I want to stop here and give the students some time to ask questions, but Kim, thank you so much. You gave such great insight. You had such a wonderful career, and I just want to open up to the students. Does anybody have any questions? It's not every day you get to interact with someone with the caliber of Kim to give you career advice. No, seriously. Yes, Jacqueline.
I have a question. I'm actually an English major and I'm looking to change to, make a shift and change my major into communications. I have a minors in corporate communications, and I know she spoke, mostly about digital design. Would that be something, would my focus need to be in digital design if I wanted to take that route?
Yeah. What's really good about the way that corporate is looking at now, just in terms of hiring, communications really covers a lot. And every time you're looking at roles, I've always seen like communications, anytime there's like a focus, just saying that in general, English majors, even that can get you a marketing role.
Can I chime in on that too? I think there's such a big lane for content writing right now, right? Like all these blogs, all these influencers, like, there's a lot of articles being written. Like, we even have our friend Jasmine, right? She does a lot of content writing. So there's a lot of opportunity. If you're a strong writer and you could like kind of just like write from the perspective of like cool, interesting, engaging articles, there's a lot of opportunity for you just the way you are.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Jacqueline. Shay, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I did. I just wanted, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, you said that your journey started with you doing internships. What is the best way to like look for internships, and like what should you be looking for when you want to intern to get into the marketing world?
Great question. I love these questions. So yes, the first thing I do is, well, when back then I wasn't really aware, but now the LinkedIn, look, I sound so antiquated. LinkedIn is so helpful. There's a lot of paid internships that are being offered on LinkedIn. And then my company specifically, we post like roles and stuff on LinkedIn. But I also know that if you have a specific interest in a company, that you should go to that company's career site and see the opportunities that they have there. In the past, it was a lot of word of mouth, and it was like people who recommended people, somebody who knows somebody at that company, and it's not that case anymore. I've also, if you wanted to be creative and wanted to expand, I've seen a lot of people put like really cool like resume videos on TikTok or social media, and they've gone viral. I mean, the chances of going viral are really slim, but if that's not kind of the direction you're going, I would say definitely look at LinkedIn and go to the company that you have in mind. And then what was the second question? The second part of the question, Jeff, do you remember?
Okay, it was, what should you be like looking for within like internships, so that that like it's just the type of company that you would want to work for to get you into like the marketing world and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So you should be, what I say all the time is that roles and descriptions are very vague, and they don't really know what that responsibility is until you interview with them. But if, let's say you were trying to look at it before before you have the opportunity to interview, I think you should look at the general like marketing that they do. And you can easily look that up. Like you can go on their social media, you can go and look at their website and just see how they are. If it falls in line with what the direction that you want to go, whatever area that is, whether you want to do like social media, whether you want to do copywriting, or whether you want to be like designing for them. So you just kind of look at that and see, okay, does this fall in line with what I want, with what I'm looking for. And I know you didn't ask this, but another thing is very important is the culture of the company. Like, it's important that you, like, when you look at something at a company, that you will like know what their culture is like, because you don't want to be in an environment or a marketing company where you're being overworked, or where you don't feel welcome, or where you just feel like, okay, this is not, I don't believe in the marketing that they're doing, and this just doesn't make sense for me. So I think that's essential too. But yeah, to go back to your, original question, like, look at just what they're doing right now, focus on and kind of use that as a reference of whether this is going to be useful for you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Shay, and great response, Kim, as always. Andrea, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I'm currently working in SEO, and I want to switch over from like SEO to more of like the paid side, or whether it's like paid media or paid search engine marketing. So how would you like, or what are some tips that you would give to do that switch into like paid marketing?
Awesome. First of all, SEO is so cool. I've never worked on it, but I have worked with people on my team who have done SEO. I think that you have a great start. SEO is very similar to paid marketing, and you can use that. So in your like, when you're looking for roles, I would tailor your resume to show how SEO can be useful for paid search. And so one of the things is, like, on paid search side, if you're not familiar with it, I would do some research to really look at what paid search is, like what the roles and responsibilities of somebody who's in paid search, so that you can tailor your resume. So if it were me, I would say, like, you create like content or keywords on the site landing pages. And that is really what paid SEM is, or like paid search, right? It's like using keywords and to try and drive people to see your ad. So they're pretty similar. And if you have the experience of doing that, the whole setting up a campaign should be very simple, because it's just learning the campaign setup and learning the platform, which is AdWords, versus the platform that you're using right now, which is probably a CMS. So I would just say, like, tailor that, and then focus on doing some research on paid search and what those roles and responsibilities look like, so that you can reference what you already have experience in your resume.
Got it. Thank you.
Can I just chime in on that as well? I think marketing is also a place where, if you really want to work in a role, it doesn't hurt for you to actually go out and literally give yourself that job. As in, if you want to do paid advertising, you can actually literally go make an Instagram page, come up with some kind of concept, right? I mean, if you're a marketing person, like, what can I create that could be interesting for people, or, what kind of market could I attract, whatever. And you can literally just start, like, even if it's like $7 ads, $10 ads, right? And then just seeing if you're even like good at it. Like I've had, when I was in my consulting days, like, I've had customers where I've literally done $10 Instagram ads that reaches like 7,000 people of their target audience locally, So I even just want to say that, right? Like, if you can, like, just go and whatever role you want to do, just go and start doing it. You don't have to even wait for someone to give you a job. And Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think if you're that person who can even come into that internship and say, hey, like, I want to do paid advertising. These are some accounts that I've ran, and I've spent X amount of dollars, and these were the impressions that came back, or this is the revenue that was generated. That makes you way more competitive as a candidate than just someone who just has a degree.
Yeah, that's true. And just to go back to what you were saying, like, even if you don't do like any paid ads for yourself, because you're not a business owner, you're not selling any products, doing some sort of project for your friend, or doing it for somebody that is a business, and you can say, like, hey, look, I can do this for you. Sometimes it could be like, I could do it for free, but you just give me the money to spend on ads. That can help you a ton, because that's what, you look at the experience. That's what's essential, is like, do you have experience in this area? And that's what corporate or businesses look for. And if you can show that, that also shows you're very driven. Like, you went ahead and you did it yourself, but without having to wait for a role or a paying, job.
Yes, and employers respect that. And I just want to chime in on that just for everyone in the room. From an employer's perspective, right, especially at the level of like intern or first year, everyone has a resume. Everyone went to a good school or whatever. Like how do you really differentiate? You don't know if someone's going to be a good marketer until you see their work, but no one has work. So literally, if you're that person who has some kind of body of work, like you're already ahead of like the whole pack. Even like, kids at Harvard or kids at, NYU or whatever, right? If all there is a resume and you can say like, hey, I helped, even if you didn't get paid for it, but you helped someone's business grow online, that's tangible, and they could go and look at the ads you made, they can look at the content you've created, etc. So I just wanted to put that out there, not to take up your question time, but I just think that's important for you guys to think from that perspective.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? But great question, Shay. I mean, not Shay. That was Andrea. Great question, Andrea. Anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, I guess not. Well, I guess we can wrap it up here. Kim, once again, thank you so much. This is your second time coming to, come and speak at the college. We really appreciate, your give back. I'm sure the students in the room found this very informative, very insightful. I know I learned a lot, and I just wanted to just tell you thank you.
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed this. This is great.
Yes, and just a little housekeeping for the students. This call obviously was recorded. Ismail, our program coordinator, he will get this organized and send you guys an email with maybe Kim's LinkedIn if you guys want to connect with her. A recording of the event if you want to watch it over again. And just, thank you guys for, making that investment in yourselves to want to, learn about building a career and taking that initiative. So thank you all. Thank you, Kim. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.